Jack Bennett stared out the viewing port of the U.S. Endeavour as the massive ship slowed from faster-than-light travel. The stars shifted from streaks back to pinpoints of light. The Orion sector spread before them, a vast region of space that humans had only recently begun to explore. Diplomatic mission or not, "I don't like this," said Gray Harrison, the ship's captain. He stood with his arms crossed, his weathered face set in a frown. "The Keltheri aren't known for their hospitality." Jack nodded. "That's why we're here. The Keltheri have been enemies of both humans and Zarkel for too long. We need this peace treaty." As if summoned by his words, Krelvash entered the bridge. The young Zarkel moved with the fluid grace of his species. His blue-gray skin and large, reflective eyes marked him as alien, but his mannerisms were unmistakably human. Raised by humans since he was a child, Krelvash represented the best of both worlds. "The Keltheri fleet is holding position at the edge of the system," Krelvash said. "They're waiting for us." Lisa Monroe joined them, her datapad clutched in one hand. As the ship's xenobiologist, she had spent years studying Zarkel physiology. She and Krelvash had developed a close bond through her research. "I've been analyzing the scan data," Lisa said. "There's an abandoned outpost on the fourth planet. It's showing signs of Zarkel architecture." Krelvash's eyes widened. "That's impossible. My people never settled this far from our homeworld." Captain Harrison scratched his chin. "Change of plans. We'll check out the outpost before meeting with the Keltheri. They've kept us waiting before. Now it's their turn." The landing party consisted of Jack, Lisa, Krelvash, and 2 security officers. The planet's surface was rocky and cold, with thin air that smelled of metal and dust. The outpost rose from the landscape like the skeleton of a great beast, all angles and curves that seemed to defy human architectural logic. "This is definitely Zarkel design," Krelvash said, running his hand along a curved wall. "But it's ancient, much older than any colony I know of." Inside, the outpost was dark and silent. Their flashlights cut through dust that had remained undisturbed for centuries. Lisa's scanner hummed as she took readings. "There's a power source still active somewhere below us," she said. They found the entrance to the lower levels behind a panel that Krelvash instinctively knew how to open. As they descended, the air grew warmer and lights flickered on automatically, responding to Zarkel presence. In the central chamber, they found it. A room filled with artifacts, strange devices, containers with unknown contents, and in the center, a pedestal holding a crystal sphere that glowed with inner light. "What is all this?" Jack asked, his voice hushed in the ancient space. Krelvash approached the sphere, drawn to it as if by an invisible force. "These are relics of my people, but from a time before our recorded history." When his fingers touched the sphere, it flared with brilliant light. Images flooded the room. Star maps, DNA sequences, and strange symbols that seemed to burn themselves into their minds. Lisa gasped. "These DNA patterns, they're showing deliberate engineering. The Zarkel were created, not evolved." Krelvash staggered back, overwhelmed by the revelation. Created? By whom? And why? Before anyone could answer, their communicators crackled to life with the captain's urgent voice. "Get back to the ship now. The Keltheri have broken formation. 3 warships are heading straight for us. They're charging weapons." As they rushed back to the surface, Krelvash clutched a small artifact he had taken from the chamber, a disc with strange markings that seemed familiar though he had never seen them before. The U.S. Endeavour barely escaped the ambush, its shields flaring under enemy fire as it accelerated away from the planet. On the bridge, Captain Harrison's face was grim. "Someone leaked our mission parameters. The Keltheri knew exactly where to find us." Jack looked at Krelvash, who was still holding the disc from the outpost. "I think we just stumbled onto something much bigger than a peace treaty," he said quietly. "Something that might explain why your people were really brought to Earth in the first place." Krelvash stared at the disc in his hands, feeling as though he held the key to not just his past, but his future as well. The U.S. Endeavour jumped to safety, leaving the Kelthari warships behind. In the ship's medical bay, Lisa examined the disc Krelvash had taken from the outpost. Her equipment scanned the strange object as Krelvash watched with worried eyes. "The material isn't in our database," Lisa said, "but there are trace elements similar to Zarkel DNA. It's as if this disc was made to be handled only by your kind." Jack entered the room, followed by Dr. Olivia Wells. The tall, serious anthropologist had spent years studying how humans and aliens lived together. Her dark eyes took in the disc with keen interest. "Admiral Foster wants a full report," Jack said. "He's not happy we went to the outpost without permission." Krelvash frowned. "Why would he be upset about that? We found important information about my people." Dr. Wells exchanged a look with Jack. "The Admiral has always been careful about Zarkel matters." "Careful or secretive?" Lisa asked. Before anyone could answer, the disc in Lisa's scanner began to glow. Symbols appeared on its surface, shifting and changing like living things. Krelvash stepped closer, drawn by a feeling he couldn't explain. "I can read this," he said in surprise. "Not with my eyes, but somehow I just know what it means." "What does it say?" Jack asked. "It's a message. The Guardians were made to protect. When the darkness returns, the adopted ones will remember." Krelvash looked up, confused. "What darkness? What am I supposed to remember?" Dr. Wells took notes rapidly. "This supports my research. The original story about humans rescuing the Zarkel from a dying planet might not be the whole truth." Jack's communicator beeped. Admiral Foster's stern face appeared on the small screen. "Bennett, bring the alien artifact to my office immediately." "That's an order." After Jack left with the disc, Dr. Wells pulled Lisa and Krelvash aside. "I need to show you something," she whispered. "But not here." They met in Dr. Wells' small office, where she locked the door and activated a privacy field. From a hidden compartment in her desk, she removed an old paper notebook. "I've been studying the first contact records between humans and Zarkel," she said. "There are inconsistencies. Pages missing. Dates that don't match up." She showed them photographs of documents with large sections blacked out. The rescue mission wasn't random. Earth's government knew exactly where to find the Zarkel. They had been watching them for years. Krelvash sat down heavily. "Are you saying we weren't rescued? That we were collected?" "I don't know," Dr. Wells admitted, "but someone wanted your people on Earth very badly." That night, Krelvash dreamed of a world he had never seen. Red skies over blue mountains, tall spires of crystal that sang in the wind. In the dream, he stood on a balcony overlooking a vast city, feeling a deep sense of loss and purpose mixed together. He woke with tears on his face and words in his mind he didn't understand. Meanwhile, in his private quarters, Admiral Foster placed the disc in a secure container. He opened a communication channel on a frequency not listed in the ship's systems. "We found another artifact," he said to the shadowy figure on the screen. "Yes," the Zarkel responded to it, just as predicted. "Good," said the figure. "The timeline is accelerating. Is he showing signs of the awakening yet?" "Not yet, but he will soon." Foster glanced at a monitor showing Krelvash's quarters. "When he does, everything changes." In another part of the ship, Intelligence Officer Steve Parker slipped into an empty storage room. He removed a small device from his pocket and transmitted a coded message. "Artifact recovered. The Zarkel subject is responding as expected. Human leadership remains unaware of our presence. The weapon potential exceeds initial estimates. Awaiting further instructions." As the ship sped through the darkness of space, 4 separate groups plotted their next moves, each believing they alone knew the truth about the Zarkel, and each willing to risk everything to control what came next. 3 days after finding the disc, Krelvash woke up screaming. His skin burned from the inside, and his mind filled with voices he couldn't understand. His human brother, Sam Rodriguez, rushed into his quarters, still half asleep. "Krell, what's wrong?" Sam asked, helping him sit up. Krellvash grabbed Sam's arm. "They're talking to me. All of them. So many voices." Sam called for help, and minutes later Dr. Megan Davis arrived. The medical specialist had treated Krellvash since he first came aboard the Endeavor. She scanned him with her medical device, frowning at the results. "His brain activity is off the charts," she said. "Body temperature elevated, heart rate doubled. We need to get him to medical right away." In the medical bay, Krellvash lay on a bed surrounded by monitoring equipment. The pain had faded, but the voices remained, whispering at the edge of his mind. "What's happening to me?" he asked weakly. Dr. Davis studied her scans. "Your body is changing. Your brain is forming new connections, new pathways I've never seen before." She looked at him with concern. "Have you ever heard of something called the awakening among your people?" Krellvash shook his head. "I need to run more tests," she said, "and I should inform Commander Wright about this." Sam stood up quickly. "No, don't tell Wright. He already thinks Krell is a security risk." Dr. Davis hesitated. "This is a medical situation. I have to report." "Please," Sam interrupted. "Just give us a day to figure this out." Reluctantly, she agreed to wait 12 hours. When she left, Sam sat beside his brother. "Can you still hear the voices?" he asked. "Yes, but..." Krellvash closed his eyes. "They're not really voices, more like feelings, thoughts." He turned to look at Sam. "I can feel what you're feeling right now. You're scared for me, but also curious." Sam's eyes widened. "You can read my mind." "Not exactly. Just emotions, intentions." Krellvash suddenly sat up. "Someone's coming. Someone angry." The door slid open and Commander Alan Wright walked in. The security chief's face was hard, his posture stiff. "Where is Dr. Davis?" he demanded. "I was informed of a medical emergency with our Zarkel guest." Krellvash flinched. "He doesn't trust me. He never has." Wright stared at him. "What did you say?" "Nothing," Sam said quickly. "Dr. Davis just stepped out. Everything's fine." Wright's eyes narrowed. "I'll be increasing security in this section." "Admiral's orders." He left, the door closing behind him. "He's going to report to Steve," Krellvash said. "They're working together." Sam looked shocked. "How do you know that?" "I saw it in his mind. Brief flashes of meetings, secret conversations." Krellvash stood up, steadier now. "Sam, I think my people were meant to have these abilities. The disc, the message about Guardians. It's all connected." Before Sam could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Captain Harrison's voice came over the comm system. "All hands to battle stations. We've received a distress call from a Zarkel scout ship under attack. Prepare for emergency jump." Sam helped Krellvash back to his quarters. "Stay here. I have to get to my post." "No," Krellvash said firmly. "I need to be on the bridge. If there are other Zarkel in trouble, I might be able to help." When they reached the bridge, Captain Harrison was studying a tactical display. A small Zarkel ship was surrounded by 3 larger vessels of unknown design. "The attack happened at the edge of the Delios Nebula," the captain explained. "We're the only ship close enough to help." As the Endeavor raced toward the coordinates, Dr. Davis caught up with Krellvash. She pulled him aside, speaking in a low voice. "I've analyzed your latest tests," she said. "Your DNA is rewriting itself, evolving in real time. I've never seen anything like it." "Is it dangerous?" Krellvash asked. "I don't think so," she replied. "It's more like your body is remembering something it forgot." The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and the main screen showed the battle ahead. The Zarkel ship was badly damaged, venting atmosphere. Krellvash stepped forward, staring at the scene. Suddenly, he felt a pull, a connection to the mines aboard the damaged ship. Without thinking, He reached out with his new senses, and they reached back. The mental connection hit Krelvash like a wave. He gasped and grabbed the railing to steady himself. Images flooded his mind, the inside of the damaged Zarkel ship, faces of the crew, and a sense of desperate fear. "There are 12 survivors," he said, eyes still closed. 3 are badly hurt. Captain Harrison turned to look at him. "How could you possibly know that?" Before Krelvash could answer, Jack Bennett entered the bridge with Ambassador Catherine Miller beside him. The ambassador was a sharp-faced woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her expression darkened when she saw Krelvash. "What is he doing on the bridge during a crisis?" she demanded. "He stays," Jack said firmly. "We need all the help we can get." The captain nodded and turned back to the tactical display. "The attacking ships aren't responding to hails. We're moving in to assist the Zarkel vessel." As the Endeavour approached, the 3 enemy ships changed course to intercept, their weapons charged, glowing with dangerous energy. "Shields up," ordered Captain Harrison. "Prepare to engage." The ship rocked as the first shots hit their shields. The crew worked quickly, firing back with precise hits that damaged one of the enemy vessels. Meanwhile, Paul Martinez, the ship's chief engineer, noticed something strange on his console. "Captain, there's a problem with our defense systems. The shields are dropping faster than they should be." "Check for damage," the captain ordered. "It's not damage," Paul replied, typing rapidly. "It looks like someone changed the shield frequency. They're hitting us exactly where we're weak." Commander Wright's face hardened. "Sabotage. I need a security team in engineering now." As the battle continued outside, Ambassador Miller pulled Jack and Krelvash into a side room off the bridge. "The Galactic Council sent me a message before we lost communications," she said. "They're demanding that all Zarkel adoptees be handed over for examination." "What? Why?" Jack asked. "They claim it's for safety reasons after reports of biological changes in the Zarkel population." She looked pointedly at Krelvash. "Changes like the ones you're experiencing." Krelvash felt cold fear spreading through him. "They want to take me away from my family, from the humans who raised me." "Not just you," Ambassador Miller said. "All Zarkel living with humans. The Council has concerns about what you might become." The ship shook again from another hit. They rushed back to the bridge as a new ship appeared on the scanners, much larger than the others, with distinctive Zarkel design. "We're being hailed," the communications officer announced. On the main screen appeared a Zarkel male, older than Krelvash, with markings on his face that indicated high rank. He wore a military uniform covered in symbols that Krelvash somehow recognized. "I am Zivkor, Fleet Commander of the Zarkel Defense Force," he said. "We are here to escort our delegation and protect our people." The Zarkel warship fired on the attacking vessels, destroying one and forcing the others to retreat. As the situation calmed, Zivkor requested permission to board the Endeavour. In the docking bay, Jack, Captain Harrison, and Ambassador Miller waited as the Zarkel delegation arrived. Krelvash stood slightly behind them, feeling strangely nervous. When Zivkor entered, his eyes immediately found Krelvash. He walked directly to him, ignoring the human leaders, and dropped to one knee. "At last we find you," he said in the Zarkel language, "the last descendant of the royal bloodline." Everyone stared in shock. Jack stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" Zivkor stood and switched to English. "This young one is not just any Zarkel. He is the heir to our ancient throne, hidden among humans for his protection until the time of awakening." Captain Harrison looked from Zivkor to Krelvash. "Is this true?" "I don't know," Krelvash said honestly. "I don't remember anything about my life before humans adopted me." "You were too young," Zivkor explained. "But your blood remembers, and now it is awakening. That is why the Galactic Council fears you, and why others wish to control you." As they spoke, Paul Martins discovered a hidden device in the ship's main computer core. It had been transmitting their shield frequencies and location data to an unknown receiver. The sabotage was sophisticated and had been in place for months. Someone on the Endeavour had been waiting for this moment all along. 2 days after the battle, Jack Bennett stood before Captain Harrison in his private office. Lissa Monroe and Krelvash were with him. They had spent hours arguing about what to do next. "What you're suggesting is mutiny," Captain Harrison said, his voice low but firm. "It's not mutiny if you authorize it, sir," Jack replied. "We need to find the true Zarkel homeworld. The coordinates are in Krelvash's memories." The captain rubbed his tired eyes. After Zivkor's revelation, Admiral Foster had ordered them to return to Earth immediately. The Zarkel delegation was being kept separate from Krelvash, against Zivkor's protests. "If we disobey direct orders, we'll all face court-martial," the captain said. Lisa stepped forward. "Sir, I've analyzed the star maps from Krelvash's genetic memories. They point to a system that doesn't appear on any official charts." Krelvash had been quiet during the discussion, but now he spoke. "Since the awakening, I can see things in my dreams. A hidden world, protected by some kind of energy field that looks like a nebula from the outside." Captain Harrison looked at the three of them for a long moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk that shut down all recording devices in the room. "We'll do it," he said simply, "but we need a plan that won't get us shot down by our own people." Later that night, as most of the crew slept, the U.S. Endeavour quietly changed course. The official logs showed they were still heading toward Earth, thanks to a clever program written by Paul Martinez. Only the senior officers and a few trusted crew members knew the truth. William Grant, a quiet man who served as navigation officer, proved surprisingly helpful. He knew paths through space that didn't appear on standard charts. "My father was an explorer," he explained when Jack asked how he knew these routes. "He taught me about the spaces between mapped stars." For 3 days they traveled, with Krelvash guiding them based on feelings and fragments of memory. The further they went, the stronger his connection to the mysterious coordinates became. "We're close," he told Jack on the 4th day. "I can feel it pulling me." They arrived at what appeared to be an ordinary region of space, with nothing but distant stars visible. But when Krelvash placed his hands on the navigation panel, energy flowed from his fingertips into the ship's systems. The space before them shimmered and changed. What had looked like empty space was actually a massive artificial nebula, a perfect hiding place for an entire star system. "How did you do that?" William asked, staring at the screen in amazement. "I didn't," Krelvash said. "The nebula recognized me. It's designed to hide this system from anyone who isn't Zarkel royalty." They moved forward carefully, shields raised in case of defense systems. Inside the nebula, they found a solar system with 7 planets. The third one was blue-green with white clouds, a perfect Earth-like world. "It looks like Earth," Lisa said softly. "Earth was chosen for us because it resembles our original home," Krelvash realized. "That's why we can live there so easily." They took a shuttle down to the planet's surface. The air was breathable, the gravity comfortable. They landed near what appeared to be a city, now in ruins, but once clearly magnificent. Crystal towers reached for the sky, their broken forms still beautiful. Jack, Lisa, Krelvash, and William walked through the empty streets. Krelvash felt drawn to a large building at the center. Inside, they found a vast hall with a circular platform in the middle. When Krelvash stepped onto the platform, the entire room came to life. Lights activated, and holographic displays appeared all around them. "Welcome home, Guardian," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Images filled the air, star maps, DNA sequences, and scenes from a war fought long ago. The history of the Zarkel played out before them, showing a truth none of them had expected. "We were created," Krelvash whispered, watching the images with wide eyes. "Created to be guardians of reality itself." William stepped closer to one of the displays, his face illuminated by its glow. For just a moment, his eyes reflected the light in a way that wasn't quite human. The holographic display continued showing images of the ancient past. Krelvash stood in the center, his body glowing with the same light as the projections around him. Dr. Olivia Wells had joined them on the planet's surface, and now she moved from image to image, trying to translate the strange symbols. "These are records of a war," she said, pointing to scenes of strange ships battling in space, but not against other physical beings. According to these symbols, the enemy came from another dimension. "That's not possible," Jack said. William stepped forward, his face oddly calm. "It is possible. The barriers between realities can be crossed under certain conditions." Everyone stared at him. There was something different about the way he moved now, more fluid and precise. "How do you know that?" Lisa asked. Instead of answering, William touched one of the displays. The images changed to show creatures of pure energy attempting to break through what looked like a tear in space itself. The Zarkel were created by an ancient race called the Shapers, William said, his voice taking on a new quality. They created the Zarkel to be guardians against these dimensional invaders, who return in cycles of approximately 10,000 years. Jack reached for his weapon. "Who are you really?" William turned to face them, his skin now slightly glowing from within. "I am a caretaker, an artificial being created by the Shapers to guide and protect until the Guardians returned." He looked directly at Krelvash. "Until you returned." Krelvash felt no fear, only a strange sense of recognition. "You've been watching me all this time." "I have been watching all Zarkel," William explained. "When humans found your colony ship, I arranged to be assigned to the same vessel. Your people were not refugees by accident. The colony ship was part of the original plan, to hide the royal bloodline among the stars in case the homeworld fell." Dr. Wells moved to another display that showed DNA sequences side by side. "Look at this," she said. "Human and Zarkel DNA. They're compatible. Deliberately made that way." "Yes," William confirmed. "The Shapers visited Earth long ago. They'd modified early humans to be compatible with Zarkel biology, creating a safe haven should it ever be needed." Lisa gasped. "That's why Zarkel children could be adopted by humans. Why they could eat our food, breathe our air so easily. It wasn't luck. It was by design." A new hologram appeared, showing a network of gates connecting different star systems. William pointed to one near Earth. This was the Shapers' network of transportation gates. Most have gone dormant, but they can be reactivated by one with the royal genetic signature. Krelvash touched the hologram, and the gates lit up one by one. "These could take us anywhere in the galaxy in an instant, including back to Earth," William said, "which is where you will soon be needed." As if in response to his words, their communications unit beeped. Julia Kim, the ship's communications specialist, appeared on the small screen. "Captain Harrison says you need to return immediately," she said, her voice tense. "I've been monitoring communications from Earth. Something's happening. Most channels went silent 6 hours ago, but before they did, I picked up fragments of emergency broadcasts." "What kind of emergency?" Jack asked. "Unknown objects appearing in orbit, strange energy readings." Then nothing. Julia looked frightened. "The last message I caught was from Admiral Foster. He said, they've come earlier than we expected. Activate Protocol Guardian." William nodded as if this confirmed something he already knew. "The cycle has begun again, earlier than calculated. The dimensional breach has started." Krelvash looked at the holograms surrounding them, at the history of his people and their purpose. "What am I supposed to do?" "I'm just one person." "You are not alone," William said. "There are others like you on Earth, Zarkel adoptees whose blood carries the same potential. You can awaken them, create a network of guardians as was always intended." Jack put his hand on Krelvash's shoulder. "Whatever you decide, we're with you." Krelvash looked at his human friends, then back to the holographic display showing Earth surrounded by strange energy patterns. The same planet that had adopted him now needed his help, and the help of every Zarkel living there. "How do we get back in time?" he asked William. "The nearest gate is in the temple on the mountain," William replied. "It can take us directly to Earth, but activating it will require all of your emerging abilities." As they prepared to leave, Lisa noticed something on one of the displays. Admiral Foster's face, younger, standing among a group of humans, and Zarkel in what appeared to be a secret meeting. "He knew," she whispered. "Foster has known about all of this all along." The mountain temple stood on the highest peak, overlooking the ruins of the ancient Zarkel city. Built of the same crystal material as the towers, it had weathered the centuries better than the structures below. Inside, they found the gate, a great ring of metal and crystal, dark and silent for thousands of years. "How do I activate it?" Krelvash asked, touching the cold surface of the ring. William guided him to a control panel nearby. "Place your hands here. Focus your thoughts on Earth, on the other Zarkel living there. Your connection to them will power the gate." Jack, Lisa, and Dr. Wells watched as Krelvash closed his eyes and placed his hands on the panel. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, lights began to flicker around the ring. The crystal elements glowed with increasing brightness. "It's working," William said. "The gate is recognizing the royal genetic signature." The center of the ring filled with swirling energy, like water catching light. Images flashed within it, glimpses of Earth, of cities, of people running in fear. "Something's wrong," Krelvash said, his voice strained. "The connection isn't stable. I can't hold it open long enough for all of us to go through." Lisa moved to a nearby console, studying the ancient controls. "The power system is damaged. It's been too long without maintenance. I can boost the signal," William said. He placed his own hands on the panel beside Krelvash's. His body began to glow brighter. "I was designed to provide emergency power if needed." The gate's energy field stabilized, the swirling patterns becoming more uniform. "It will hold now," William said, "but not for long. You must go." "You're not coming with us?" Jack asked. "My purpose here is complete. My energy will maintain the gate until you are through." William looked at Krelvash. "Remember, you must find the others like you. Together, you can form the Guardian Network, just as your ancestors did." Dr. Wells downloaded as much data as she could from the temple's systems onto her portable device. "This information might help us understand what we're facing." They gathered at the edge of the gate, ready to step through. Jack contacted the Endeavor, instructing Captain Harrison to take the ship back to Earth the normal way, and to bring Zivkor and his delegation with them. "Ready?" Jack asked, looking at Krelvash. Before Krelvash could answer, his communicator activated. Admiral Foster's face appeared on the small screen, looking older and more tired than when they had left. "You found the homeworld," Foster said. It wasn't a question. "You knew about it all along," Krelvash replied. "You knew what I was." Foster nodded. "I've been part of a human organization called the Watchers for 40 years. We've been preparing for this moment for generations, ever since the first Zarkel arrived on Earth." "Why didn't you tell me?" Krelvash asked. "You had to discover your heritage on your own. That's how the awakening works." Foster's image flickered as the connection weakened. "Listen carefully. The dimensional breach has begun. Strange ships have appeared in orbit around Earth. They're not solid matter. They're energy constructs, just like the ancient records warned." "How are you fighting them?" Jack asked. "We're not winning," Foster admitted. "Our weapons pass right through them. We need the Guardians. We need you, Krelvash." The Admiral's face was replaced by images of the attack on Earth, strange, shifting vessels that glowed with unnatural light, firing beams that tore holes in reality itself. "There are 26 Zarkel adoptees on Earth old enough to undergo the awakening," Foster continued when his face reappeared. I'm sending you their locations now. Find them. Awaken them. It's our only hope." The transmission ended as the data transfer completed. Krelvash looked at his friends, then at William, who was now glowing so brightly it was hard to look at him directly. "Go now," William said. "The gate will close soon." Krelvash stepped forward and clasped William's shoulder. "Thank you for watching over my people all this time." "It has been my purpose and my honor," William replied. One by one, they stepped through the gate. First Dr. Wells with her precious data, then Lisa, then Jack. Krelvash was last, turning to look one final time at the homeworld he had never known, at the artificial being who had guided him to this moment. "Two worlds, one family," William said as Krelvash stepped into the swirling energy. That was always the plan. The gate closed behind them, and they emerged into chaos. Earth was under attack, but Krelvash was no longer afraid. For the first time in his life, he knew exactly who he was and what he was meant to do. The adopted ones had come home, and they would save both worlds.